It's also about getting your audience to buy in on what you're creating, and not just with watching it, but with actually giving something of value that they're willing to pay money for.
Yeah. I mean, the joke right now is everyone's got a t-shirt to sell. Like every YouTuber.
Wait. Feature t-shirts.
Or even like, it's just, I feel a little sad because it's like, you see like this, like it's really hard to become independent of these like ad networks. So it's like, I don't know. Like what's your go bag for like your ad apocalypse gonna be? You know,
your emergency kit.
In this episode, we talk with Sam, Niko, and Jake from Corridor Digital. Corridor has over 1 billion video views with an audience of over 8 million followers across YouTube, Facebook, and more.
This is Creative Disruption, the intersection where entertainment, data, and creativity meet. Here's your hosts, Ricky Ray Butler and Derral Leaves.
Welcome back to the Creative Disruption podcast, where we talk about everything that's disrupting the industry right now. And I'm joined by my friend Ricky Ray Butler. How you doing, Ricky?
I'm doing great.
Do you know,
I'm sorry, I'm chuckling because I just love that there's always like this little intro.
Well, we have to have the intro,
Sure,
man.
sure.
It's like tradition here.
Just for everyone to know, Derral, like when it comes to programming and building an audience, he's really, really good at it. and you know, I'm sure there's a science, but it's just really funny because it's great.
You don't think there's science?
No, there is a science.
Let me tell you, it is the Jerry Seinfeld system that we're doing here. Have you watched it? Have you watched the series?
I've seen Jerry Seinfeld, and I know this is something that YouTube has pushed for a long time. And
I'm telling you,
all the big creators do it the right way. The podcasts do it the right way.
It literally works, and I want to tell you why. Okay, so Seinfeld starts out with what? Jerry on the stage telling some jokes, really, and it's a good hook. It brings people in.
Yeah.
He's telling some jokes, right? He's really integrating with the audience, and the audience is getting really excited. But all the jokes is how did those jokes come to be? And then that's when the story starts, you know, and the story of the jokes start to build up, because the jokes didn't stop at the stand-up. They're just like being more defined, and you're getting a lot of backstory of where those jokes were actually interesting. And as it develops and gets more done, you have different systematic ways of doing it, and there's different lines of perspective. So you have Kramer's perspective, you have George's perspective.
So am I George or Kramer? Like, how does
I
that
think
work
you're
here?
Newman.
Well, Derral, if I could just say something, I appreciate this lesson. You really are a father figure to me, both with age and experience.
Oh my gosh. Okay, moving on from this. So programming aside, no, I like to see, you know, what's actually happening online, and I like to read, you know, content creators' posts and their tweets, because you can really see the truth kind of come out at times, their frustration.
Sure.
And there's a lot of creators really frustrated right now because of all the adpocalypse. They're being demonetized, and they're looking for alternative sources. And no, we've dealt with a lot of creators, and part of what we do is we build audiences, and you know, we're good at that.
Well, and you work. I mean, your clients are creators for the most part.
Absolutely.
You have some brand clients, but it's mainly helping build audiences of creators.
But
right?
I'm doing both. I'm building audiences on
YouTubers
both
and
sides.
different influencers.
Yeah, for sure. And so, you know, we wanted them to gravitate more to Facebook, because Facebook actually has some monetization on. And we have some of our clients are making $20,000 to $40,000 a day.
That's amazing
On that content.
But is that ever going to change? I think we should talk about that more later. But like, that's the biggest risk with Facebook. You know, there's always something that changes that benefits them.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but I do disagree with the opportunity. I think a lot of people are like, well, how do you make money on Facebook? You know, how's that happening? Like, and the key is like there are certain type of content that works really well. And you believe it or not, you know what content works really well on Facebook?
Like viral videos.
It's like what actually started YouTube, like the Devin Supertramps of the world. You know, I mean,
Devin's killing on Facebook, and that's what saved. I mean, his programming. Like, YouTube's changing the algorithm and everything has hasn't really benefited him, but Facebook he's been
his
tens of millions of views.
His type of videos went out of favor with the algorithm, and now it's back in favor.
Yeah.
But Facebook actually paid him to be one of the top tier creators there, and he was part of that. But what was really smart about Devin was he actually created different pages that were promoting the type of content that he would actually create. So, he goes on these amazing adventures all over the world, and it's like he has these pages. It's like cool things in the world, and you just see these epic shots, and they're 4 minutes long. So you can hit that ad break, and you're just like caught into it. And what do? You hit share, right?
I'm so happy for him because he's one of the sweetest people out there. I mean, and people don't realize that he's probably one of the world's most famous DPs.
I would have to agree with that, but he's also like I attribute a lot of YouTuber success in the state of Utah and surrounding areas.
Sure.
To Devin, even though he probably will never take credit for it.
No,
but he inspired because, and we've had this conversation before, but he inspired so many people because he saw where it was going and he went all in and people started to help each other.
And he brought people with him.
When he created
like
a community.
A community.
Yeah. But so anyway, getting back to it, these creators are really frustrated. They're trying to go over to Facebook and look at different options. And you bring up a good point. Is Facebook a good option? Like, is that even a good option for people right now?
I think it is a good option. I think any option you can find, you should test it out and try to grow it. And you need to diversify what you're doing because, but at the same time, you have to remember YouTube is the most established platform, and you need to figure out how to evolve and adapt or die. Well, when it comes to that platform,
I can tell you right now that so we had a podcast with John Ushai, right? And he was one of the lead guys over at YouTube, and he left to Instagram. And I asked him why. Like he was asking, should I go or not? We had this conversation, and I'm like, man, YouTube's like amazing. And he's like, but like there's so much opportunity, and there was a lot of opportunity for him personally there. But when he went, he made a comment. He goes, all the mistakes that YouTube made, I know.
Yeah.
And they can avoid a lot of the things that are happening right there because of that. And so I find it fascinating, but I think at the end, I think the issue that people are going to face is something that our guests are actually going to talk about.
Yeah.
And
before we go to our guests.
Okay.
Now I've heard a rumor that Instagram is going to start doing monetization.
Yeah.
And doing a rev share. And it's in beta with different creators.
No, it is. It is right now.
That's huge. I mean, because
it's massive.
Because there's much bigger audiences on Instagram than on YouTube.
Well, in specific niches, like general audiences, they can't even compare.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, when it comes to, let's say, celebrities or top pop artists that have hundreds of millions of followers, you don't see that on YouTube yet. And so when they start building content and hiring a team to make them more disciplined or to help them be more disciplined in uploading this content, I mean, there could be some crazy revenue opportunities for these mainstream celebrities.
I do believe that, but two, it's like there's certain things that work really well on Instagram, and it's like I got caught in a trap on Instagram, and it was a woodworking channel, and it was just all they were doing is just sanding stuff down and finishing it, and I was just like, okay, that was like satisfying. It's like, like I didn't expect it to see on Instagram, but it was really, really cool. But like, I think there's a lot of different verticals from there, but it is correct. Like they have announced they are working with people. They're doing a lot more on IGTV, bringing revenue in that realm. But which
are obviously favoring with their algorithms.
Absolutely, which is a perfect segue for our guests because they've been in the business for super long. Do you want to go ahead and introduce the guests real quick?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about who we have today. We have Corridor Digital. I've worked with Corridor for a good amount of time now, right? And I think we've done around 12 to 15 different projects together.
It's got to be at least,
Yeah.
We worked together since 2011, 2010, something like that.
Yeah. It was really early on, and these guys, I think, are some of the pioneers of Hollywood today. They're fantastic at storytelling. They're amazing with post production, and they were one of the first groups to really do premium production on YouTube. And then today, you guys are just killing it. Like you have like 5 channels that are just exploding in growth.
Yeah, so we've got 5 active channels. That's Corridor Digital, Corridor Crew, our podcast, Corridor Cast, Node, and then we just recently started the world's premiere farm to table guillotine channel, where we basically have this physics experiment channel where we put on white jumpsuits and we take a 50-pound blade on a guillotine and we see what it will chop through and what it won't.
It sounds like they're copying Will It Blend.
It's Will It Chop.
Will It
Yeah,
Chop.
that's
Chop it or drop it till it chops.
We drop until it chops. Yeah, that's the motto.
Well, one thing that got me really excited about you guys early on when we started working together is, you were some of the first to really create video games in real life, recreate video games in real life. And being that, we've worked with a lot of gaming companies, there's always just a natural fit. What have you guys done since then? Give us, an idea of like the evolution of your content.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, we've always kind of bridged this gap between gaming and just cool action visual driven content in general, because how at least Sam and I got our start back in like our teenage years was getting into visual effects, because around the turn of the millennium,
Will Smith dropped Millennium.
around the turn of the millennium, visual effects and just digital video in general was literally just invented. Like, visual effects not in terms of like the concept, but in terms of being able to do it on your home computer. This is the same time Sam and myself are like kind of coming into age of being able to do stuff with that. And so it's super exciting. You're on the edge of this frontier where suddenly you can do a shot that has only been possible for big budget Hollywood movies, and you can do it in your backyard. And that led to me and Sam filming each other with plastic airsoft guns, doing cool action scenes. But we got to put muzzle flashes in there. So, and we went through school and we kept working on it, moved out to LA eventually, and we were doing videos out here, and they were inspired by video games because there was this niche that hadn't been filled. Up to this point, any video game film that had been made was always made by somebody who never played video games. I mean, this is like the year, like video game films were big in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and there's no way that 50-year-old director like has any idea like what GoldenEye 64 is like, So video game movies were way off base. They never captured the player's experience, and that's something that Sam and I realized we could do this. Like we were almost more cinematically inspired by games than we were by movies, and so we set out to take these games, these things that we loved, and realize them in a cinematic way, because we had learned how to make things look cinematic and look big budget without actually having big budgets. But that quickly evolved, and that evolved into us just realizing we could make cool visual driven pieces in general and like kind of capture this energy that we just really enjoyed making and putting into our films. But it, once again, things still grew. Jake joined the team very shortly after we started our channel. And the world of YouTube itself influenced us. Having audiences constantly giving us feedback influenced us. And YouTube is not a platform for an auteur to make their film and then put it out there and, just have that film's distribution be what, defines their success. YouTube is a personality-driven platform. And so what we've evolved to today is we have multiple channels, and they cover different things. Like there's still Corridor, which still does the artsy, visual-driven, action-based, usually, pieces, and that really scratches the itch that Sam and I have for filmmaking. But then there's also the Corridor Crew channel, which I think much more plays towards what YouTube wants, and that is, and we very much enjoy doing it, but that's a much more personality-based channel where we share the stories of being a YouTube channel. Like, on this day, we have to make a flamethrower, which is one of the great things we get to do because of our Corridor videos. How do you make a flamethrower? What does it look like? What can you burn with it, etc.? Like, there's so much more than just the video that you're going to make on the Corridor channel with these stories, and that's what the Corridor Crew channel has become, is these awesome adventures that we go on while making all this stuff, and the weird things that happen in the studio, including reaction videos.
Well, like those the VFX artists react to Hollywood film videos are exploding right now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they are. They're
if you
really
search
exploding.
for VFX on YouTube, it's just a big row of us. It's awesome and it's pretty cool. I mean, even though I have
There'll be some copycats coming soon.
I know, but I've had it's funny. I've had almost zero involvement with that series, but it's still very satisfying to see, considering like when we started on YouTube, everyone was like, "Oh wow, these guys are doing VFX on YouTube," and now finally it's we are the only people you see right now doing it in that sense. So
it's a really interesting.
And we're getting the
thing.
recognition.
Yeah, it's super interesting because it's all come full circle. Our traditional film background has not that we had a huge traditional film background, but that's where we were trying to go when we started all this. It finally came back where now we get to share all this knowledge and this is cool. No one knows about this, but this is super cool. And we've never had a way to share it until now. And the funny thing is back in the day, if you rented a DVD, you'd have all the behind the scenes and the special features, things made to sell DVDs. Well, no one buys DVDs anymore. You go and you rent your video for $2 on Amazon.com and you watch it. And that's the end of that. So all this behind the scenes and special features, that's gone. It's all been replaced by the social media behind the scenes, aka we want to sell you our movie. Please go watch it. Here's the actor telling you about how profound it is. But that's not what I want to see. I want to see how they did the magic tricks. How did you blow up that spaceship? What was cool about it? What's the challenge you had to face? Who's that really weird but cool guy on set that's responsible for the flamethrower?
He's got a cigarette in his mouth the whole time.
Yeah. And we've brought that back to life with our Visual Effects Artists React series, which it's called VFX Artists React because right now, I guess, the big thing on the algorithm is React, but we're not really doing a React series. What we're actually doing is a expose series where we talk about how all these things are done. We're trying to create admiration and appreciation and understanding of these awesome visuals that define the media that we consume.
Wasn't there a series back in the day called Movie Magic? Or
Yes.
it was on Discovery?
Movie
I
Magic
think?
is what got me into visual effects.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That was a fun series. Was it Discovery or?
Yeah, it was Discovery.
Yeah. No,
their
I watched that
Independence
as a
Day
kid
episode.
as well.
Really good. The cliffhanger episode, also really good. The Die Hard episode, very
Actually,
good.
I saw that episode.
Yeah.
That is an amazing episode. That's awesome.
But the thing is, that series is really funny because it gets me thinking about what other series you could do with that format, because Niko's right, it's not actually a React series because all the people who are commenting are also really knowledgeable on the subject, so it's not really a reaction. It's not just a shocked expression. It's an actual discussion with the philosophies and the techniques that are going into these shots.
Yeah,
it's a little more like mathematicians react to equations. That's
good.
It's not, because you instantly know there's some legitimacy to what these guys are going to start saying.
That's the filmmaker side of us coming out. We call it a React series because that's more applicable to what the YouTube environment is. But really, there's the artistic side of it is, hey, let us pull back the curtain. Let us explain to you how this was done in a way that's easy to understand, but that's also fascinating because you haven't thought about it in this way. It's something you may have seen hundreds of times, but you've never understood this aspect of it before. And that goes hand in hand with some of the other content that we've done on that channel, that we've done across the board, where it's a little bit more taking this sense of storytelling and blending it into what's possible today in today's ecosystem, because you can't just go out and craft the perfect script with the perfect set and the perfect budget every time you want to make something. So a lot of times it's us looking around at what we're doing and going, hey, I like that, or hey, we just got this mocap suit. What can we do with it? And it's still utilizing this cutting edge technology to continue to tell stories, but
yeah. I mean, we joke very frequently that all YouTube is just derivative content at this point. No one makes anything original. It's you're either you're reacting to something or you're taking a trend and just redoing it. And the problem with that is, there's a reason why it happens, is because making original content is difficult, and also doing it on an ad budget, on an AdSense level budget. It's risky to go out and spend money and dedicate time to anything basically, unless it's going to be a hit. But in a weird way, it's it's also interesting. I know we're really just talking and hyping up our own show here in a way, but what I find fascinating though is like it's kind of proving that there is actually still a way to embrace a little bit of that element of like making that, you know, that content that you are kind of regurgitating a lot of the stuff that's already existing and people have already made, but you're kind of also doing it in a way where you're actually bringing it all into one place. So people actually can get something out of it. You know, we're kind of like aggregating, like, because these videos, you know, you need to take like footage from like one behind the scenes here. You need to find like footage from a tech demo that was like, or a research paper that talks about a certain effect. And we're taking all these things and putting in one place so people can actually see the whole picture, which is, you know, so there is a lot of research and stuff that can go into it.
And do you feel like that channel, the Corridor Crew, that it gave you more of a personality type of connection with your audience? Because before, you know, when I discovered you guys, it's like, oh, that was a cool video, but it's only whatever came up, you know, whatever is trending at the time.
It's like, why would you continue? Why would you go back?
Exactly. Well, is there a purpose for that? And is that do you relate that to your current growth that you're seeing right now? Is like your core audience that's following is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're getting more engaged with your content?
Yeah, I think absolutely. When we first started, you know, it was all just about the art. It was all just about the filmmaking side of it. It was just, let's put the story out there. No context. Did you love it? Great. We've done our job. Now that's still very important, but also still behind it, you know, you need to put yourself out there as a character. You need to put your own story out there, because that's part of, at the end of the day, that's also part of storytelling. You know, people want to know what the human condition is and what other people are going through, whether that's like dramatic and intense or whether that's something fun and unique that you haven't seen other people do before. There's always that attraction to it. And if you're not really bringing that out in your content today, then it's going to be hard for it to survive on its own, because there's just such a wash of content now across every platform. It's like you really need to bring yourself out with the content. You need to bring your brand out with it, and you know, utilize what you have around you, and just go from there.
Mm-hmm. So Derral, one thing, you know, I've mentioned to you before is being on a corridor shoot is an intense experience.
When you say intense, what do you mean?
Like
intense?
Yelling. I might have been yelled at, you know, once or twice. You know,
They yell at you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell you why. Ricky, get in the shot. You know, maybe I was in the shot. You know,
You were in
my
the
nose
shot.
in the background.
You were one of those guys that your phone would go off.
Oh, sure. Like, quiet, please.
We were in the desert filming one time, and we were all in like combat boots and desert clothing and like sun hats, and we're filming this scene where we've got like these
It's like 110 degrees.
it's 110 degrees.
Like
and we're-
everyone, like people are like sitting on the ground,
Yeah.
like trying not to faint.
We're throwing body parts and blood at these cars with like smoke effects and explosions going off as they're driving around this like very contained area where we have all the actors and extras in this one area, and this car comes strolling up in the distance, and it's like this little like Hyundai sedan.
Stop,
And we're like,
hold the car.
and it's like, and it just keeps creeping up, and it slows down, and it pulls up, and Ricky gets out in like loafers and a fedora and a button up. And he's like,
I had to protect myself from the sun.
Yeah,
He was on vacation in Cuba.
It's like awesome Cuban wear. Perfect for the heat.
And that only cost you how much money?
I'm sorry. So, do you have the same intensity with the Corridor Crew content? Because you know, like, doing live action's got to be, you know,
Yeah, well, you know, a
much
film
more
set,
rough.
and this is kind of just a bit of a symptom of like actual film sets. Like a film set's either your time is priceless because you have 12 hours on location and that's it forever, or your time has a price, but it's a very high price. Like when we were shooting Lifeline, which is a YouTube Red series we did, you know, a minute on set costs like $200 or $300. So literally just going, where should we put the camera next? Boom, I just wasted $20. Like, and it's a huge amount of pressure. So if somebody's not on the ball and they're like, and they waste a minute of your time, they've literally just pulled 2 Benjamins out of their pocket and like burned it, and you just watched it happen. So there's an intensity because you need to make stuff happen. Every second counts. And honestly, that's like the enemy of good art. And Corridor Crew, those videos don't have that issue because it's just us in the studio and like, hey, what are you working on? I'm working on this. I'm really passionate about it. Let me share that passion with you. Let me talk about things I love. And like, there's no pressure of like, and every second I don't speak, I'm wasting hundreds of dollars. Like, that's not there. And we're trying to bring that over to the world of filmmaking. Like little by little, we bring that over into Corridor, and it's a combination of like technology. It's a combination of concept. It's also like part of it's just people starting to consume different types of media. We're okay with cameras being handheld now. We're okay with cameras being 1080p and like 10 stops at dynamic range. Like we don't care anymore. Like sure, like the film aficionados care if you shoot on an Alexa or not. Most people don't give a crap if you shoot it on a cell phone. It doesn't matter. It's all that matters is that it's a good story. It doesn't even matter if it's well acted. And realizing this has been liberating in a way because we still like making films. We still like transporting people to another world, but we don't have to go out of our way to spend thousands of dollars and have a crew of a gigantic team who's going to get ornery if they're not sitting down for 5 minutes every 30 minutes and getting their food at certain breaks. Like none of that matters anymore because that stuff is the enemy of just getting to sit down in a set, look at your actors in costume, look at the lights and look at the cameras and be like, guys, what do you think would be a cool moment? Like you don't get to have those discussions on an actual big film set. And you miss out on a lot of creative opportunities because of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It goes to show you that the traditional filmmaking is, at the end of the day, like you were saying earlier, it is arbitrary in the sense that the entire format has been created to satisfy this certain economic output, this certain economic distribution that is now at this point an industry that's over 100 years old. And so today, to be able to go out and to tell stories in a new way, yeah, you're right. It is liberating. Now, that said, we're not just sitting there, armchair sort of artists where we're just like thinking about what we'd like to make all day long. There's still very much like a release schedule and a format to the distribution of it and to the tone of it. And
that's your job.
Yeah, and that's all of our job.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's primarily my job.
It's like, oh, well, if you want to keep doing this job, you got to do it,
Well, no, I mean, Jake, I've always seen you as like the captain of like making sure you're hitting the deadlines.
Yeah.
And make sure everything's happening on time.
Yeah, that's definitely my area.
You were also in charge of all the legalese because I don't know if you knew this. Jake is a lawyer.
Oh yeah.
So like, as they were starting this YouTube channel, he was going to law school.
Yeah, when we started, I wasn't a lawyer, and then I became a lawyer while we were doing it. I almost actually, because we shot this web series called Sync, I almost failed out of law school, and they sent me a letter because my grade point average dropped below a 2.2 or something. It had some requirement, and I wasn't aware of it. And they sent me a letter, and then I moved, and so the letter arrived at a place that I no longer lived, and for a whole semester I was on academic probation, and I didn't know it. And then they sent me a letter afterwards, and I show up at my house one day and I check my mail and I'm like, oh, I got a letter from my school, and I open it and it's congratulations, you've been taken off academic probation.
Wow.
You're now. I'm just like, wait, what just happened? Yeah.
It's like, do I feel good or?
So how do you go from law school and being a lawyer to making YouTube videos, man?
We just kind of we started it all at the same time, really. They were making, the original sort of videos that they started making on the Corridor channel. You guys were doing freelance effects on the side. I was going to law school part-time at night and working. My original plan was that I wanted to become a talent agent.
Got it.
So I wanted to work in the arts, and I was going through law so that I could work with artists. And then at the same time, we were friends. They were making content. They were making videos. They needed help. We were working on them together, and it just kind of made sense, And when I realized, hey, these guys, very talented. They're on it. They're not, if this ever blows up, they're not going to get, they're not going to let the fame or the views or anything like that get to them. They seem like
you think.
Yeah, they seem like level-headed people, And so for me, it's like, hey, this is a way that I can work work with two great artists, two great people that I like, I can contribute in that way too. And then, I can utilize my skill sets to add something, to bring something to the table as well. And that's really why we all started working together.
I think it's worth mentioning that Jake has a pretty strong like artist streak in him, which like doesn't seem to jive.
I do.
With,
I have a music tattoo on my arm.
Yeah.
Well, he's quite the actor as well.
Yeah, he is actually, and a good stuntman, good physical actor. But like back in high school, Jake was like in music and like in bands, and like it's always been an aspect of who Jake is. But more importantly, like when we were starting Corridor and we were putting out videos in that first year, it was the kind of thing. It's like, hey, we're just gonna make videos because that's what we want to do. If somebody else wants to like join us, that's fine. Look, you're gonna have to just make stuff. Like, we're not gonna tell you what to do. We're not gonna be there making sure you get your work done. Like, you either get it done and you make stuff because that's what you want to do, or you don't. And that's a big filter right there. It filters out a lot of people. And Jake was like, no, I want to do it. I was like, okay. And then he did it. And he did it for the entire year. And then he kept doing it. And it's like, well, all right. I guess we'll all just depend on each other now.
Yeah. It's worked out so far.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's awesome. Well, one thing that we're talking about when we're bantering back and forth is that there are a lot of creators that are now starting to monetize on Facebook. And I have a couple of different opinions on how I see that. But I don't think Facebook's in a spot or any other platforms in a spot to really help creators monetize more so than they already are with YouTube when it comes to like at least ad revenue. Revenue share around advertising. What are your guys' thoughts? Are you guys starting to monetize on Facebook?
We are. Yeah, we're just right at the early stages. Like I was saying to you the other day, the process of dealing with them has been tumultuous. It's just been one where they've promised certain things that they never delivered on. They say that they can't control copyright infringement and freebooting. They say that there's no way to monetize for other people and put in these restrictions in place that YouTube currently has, which is hard to believe considering that they're the second largest ad distribution network on the internet. They have over 2 billion profiles. They control 30 to 40% of all digital ad spend online.
Forbid you program a content ID system to recognize when
Right,
someone
a content
re-uploads your
ID
work.
system seems to be just it's too much.
But YouTube did it like years ago, and I don't think it's that complicated. Maybe
I think they're just waiting, and this has been their philosophy. I think since their inception is that they sort of just do things, and this is a symptom of like tech and Silicon Valley too. I think in general, it's just like, well, you just do it. It doesn't really matter if it's illegal or not. And then once the hammer comes down on you, then you pull back and you regulate. And we're starting to see a little bit of that now, which is why they've sort of opened up their monetization. And they're at least saying at this point that they're going to control copyright infringement, whereas 2 years ago they weren't even saying that. But I think it's still a little bit of a symptom of Mark Zuckerberg being in place there, and him still thinking a little bit like he's the underdog, and he's still back in the dorm rooms in Harvard, and it's like, well, your situation has changed. It's one of your responsibilities now to sort of foster the landscape for other creators so that they can come in and cultivate it and make it a diverse ecosystem on your platform. But I don't know if they look at it that way necessarily. I think they kind of look at it from the perspective of they're the same as everyone else, when they should be looking at it as in like, how can we create a landscape to foster other people?
Well, you'd think that they'd be smart enough to say, okay, here's the issues that plagued YouTube for a very long time.
That too,
and the
yeah.
legalities of other people's content was a main issue, especially with the music labels and stuff like that. And so YouTube already went through those pains. And so if I'm like going to do what YouTube's doing, it's like, okay, the first thing is, what are the pain points? What do they have to overcome? Where are the sticking points? And actually address it. Because like, seriously, for me, like freebooting, it just drives me bananas. It just literally drives me bananas.
Yeah, I estimate with our Boston Dynamics Parody video, we lost 100 million views across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Yeah.
Wow.
On
It's just
Monetize.
how many takedown notices did you?
Over 2,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah. In about
there's,
2 weeks.
There's where your law degree comes for you.
Oh yeah. Well, fortunately, the DMCA has made that process really easy.
Yeah.
They're all required now to have these takedown processes that are all done through online forms.
Well, I'm sure some of those views are monetized for other people.
Oh, for other people. Yeah. We did 100
YouTube
million
used to
views for
flag it,
other
you guys
people.
You're like, hey, we got it out there.
Wow.
It is nice to see it get out there, and it did go viral in that sense, and it may not have been because of that, but man.
But doesn't it like hurt a little bit because some of the people that are actually freebooting it are monetized and nothing happens to them?
I know. It's not even like you get like a backdated like.
Oh,
receipt
here's
of-
your check for the ad revenue.
Yeah, it's like it's not like they still made their money.
This guy literally sent us an email saying, "Hey, you copyright claimed the video that I uploaded of yours. And mind you, he didn't watermark it. He didn't label it.
put
He
a
didn't give us.
credit?
He didn't even give us credit. He cut off our intro card, our title card,
re-edited it.
and
Wow.
edited out the
That's
end
theft.
card, right? And just re-uploaded it to his Instagram profile. And so we copyright struck it, and then Instagram shut down his profile because he had committed 3+ copyright strikes within an amount of time that they determined to be against their policies. So then he emails us going, "Hey, I can't get my profile back. It's the only way that I'm supporting my family currently." And it's like, well, how are you supporting your family?
By ripping off
You rip other people's videos and upload them. That's just piracy, and I understand their argument. Their argument is, well, I'm getting it out to more people. More people are seeing it, and therefore you're ultimately benefiting from it as well. But there is a modicum of creativity, as they would call it in the law, which requires you to contribute at least something small that's originally creative. And if all you're doing is just cutting and re-uploading, well then, what are people to do? Then it gets to a point where then people don't know who the original author is, and it's just a mess. So.
And I mean, that's kind of like one of the things we discussed quite a bit actually when that Boston Dynamics video came out, which was like, all right, so virality, how has it changed? Where are we at with it?
Yeah.
Like, because it used to be like you make a YouTube video and your URL for your YouTube video gets shared on Facebook and Twitter and blah, blah, blah. Obviously, a few years ago, that all changed. Everything is...
We're not going to share YouTube's URLs anymore.
Facebook shares Facebook video, Twitter shares Twitter videos, YouTube shares YouTube videos, and it all stays on their own platform. So if you don't jump ship quick when your video comes out and upload it to Facebook and Twitter and all these things, someone else is going to do it, and they're going to profit off of your work. So
we know that now.
So we know, I mean, it's become incredibly apparent. But the thing is that at the same time too, like these aggregates and these like meme pages and meme accounts, in a way though, it's like, yes, it's piracy, but you can also make a pretty strong argument that they are kind of contributing to your virality. Because ultimately, if they do give you credit, if they do help somehow bolster, I guess, the actual creator, whether they're ripping the video off or not, it doesn't matter. But the thing is that they are becoming these hubs. People follow them. Like people go out of their way to click, follow on Instagram. They like the page on Facebook or whatever.
It's a huge vertical on Instagram where there's just feature accounts.
Yeah, once again, Niko said it right. They don't want to go to the algorithm for their content. They want someone to curate it for them. And that's kind of like the role these people are taking. It's like they're kind of fighting back a little bit against this idea of like, all right, let's profile you and then serve you what's going to, basically keep you addicted to our platform.
But they're profiting off of it. And so the question becomes then, where's your royalty in that way? Because there isn't a format for that now, and the law is always going to be behind on this, which is why I was complaining about Facebook in that sense, is because they need to be the one that's taking proactive steps to foster this. Like if
not
you
wait
want
for regulation to
I mean,
happen.
you guys even have a word for it, featured accounts. It's like, oh, you're doing a brand integration on a feature account where they feature other people's work. The platforms that those are on should be taking proactive steps to create a monetization system that works for everyone, and rather than just waiting
so when they
for
do tag someone or if they do feature someone's content, immediately there's like some type of rev share.
Because right now the minimum requirement is just DMCA. Congress made us do this. We have a copyright takedown form if you don't like it. If you do, work it out with them separately. It's like you can't work that out with 1,000 people that uploaded your video. You can't work out separate deals with each one of them. And, it's just not it's not possible with the way that the system works currently.
Yeah.
If I was a creator like you guys, I think some of the biggest risks. I mean, yes, this is one of those things that need to be solved. And let's say if it is solved, I think there's still some pretty valid, concerns to have with Facebook's history. There's a company I was working with where we did an application that had tens of millions of users on a monthly basis, and on Facebook, and we were monetizing and we were making millions and millions of dollars. And then out of nowhere, there was a change in policy. There's actually a pretty big, I don't know if you guys remember that. Like there's a pretty big ecosystem or economy of third-party apps on Facebook. And within a matter of just weeks or, just a few months, Facebook basically killed all of it. And there were lots of jobs that were lost as a result of it. And so what makes me nervous for content creators is that maybe there's something that's working really well on Instagram or on Facebook, and you guys are seeing a lot of revenue there, and then out of nowhere there's a change in the compensation plan where you get a smaller percentage, or maybe it's taken away from you altogether because
or you get demonetized,
or you get demonetized, or there's all this organic growth where it doesn't make sense to have a partnership program from a perspective of the platform, which I don't think would be the case. I mean, have you guys ever thought of those types of risks when it comes to the platforms?
Yeah. I mean, that's why we try to diversify. I mean, every platform is a risk, because if it's not your platform, it's always a risk. If you don't like how a company's running their stuff, your options are to make your own, or really that's kind of it.
make your own platform.
Yeah. It's also about getting your audience to buy in on what you're creating, and not just with watching it, but with actually giving something of value that they're willing to pay money for.
Yeah. I mean, the joke right now is everyone's got a t-shirt to sell. Right. Like every YouTuber.
My merch.
Wait, t-shirts.
I know, but it's like, it's almost become like a joke. I feel like at this point when I watch like YouTubers, it's just like, buy my shirt. It's like, dude.
Right. And that's just one example.
Or even like, it's just, I feel a little sad because it's like, you see, like this, like it's really hard to become independent of these like ad networks. So it's like, I don't know. It's the biggest struggle. It's like, how do you what's your go bag for like your ad apocalypse gonna be?
Your emergency kit.
I think that's what's made you guys specifically very special in this new content creator world, because you guys have always been adapt or die type mentality, and so you guys have went from having one channel to now having 5 channels, and they're all doing extremely well. Yeah, but like when you go to a Corridor Digital shoot, you guys do some amazing like Hollywood-esque like productions, but you guys always have a very nimble, fast-moving team.
You got it.
Which I'm sure is a pain in the neck to deal with when it comes to unions, etc.
Compared to unions, unions are a nightmare. But I actually have to go put more money in my parking meter. Yeah. So I'm going to dip out for a second. Okay. Sam, Jake, good luck.
Okay. Wait a second. We should have validated. Oh man, we should have given these guys some more information.
Now that he's validating his parking or putting money in the parking meter, what's into your to-go bag, Ricky? You don't have a channel, so
I don't have a channel. Let's ask these guys.
What is your
So in the apocalypse, you have a go bag,
right?
Where you fill it with like food and water and some clothes and survival gear, a pocket knife, Swiss Army knife,
some
paracord.
That's right.
A Glock.
I see. Okay, so what is the equipment of that for a digital media content creator?
For the adpocalypse,
right?
For a digital media creator, what is in that? What's in
first you need at least some form of camera recording device.
You want a camera, a recording device.
So a cell phone will do you.
You're recording audio and video.
DSLR, camcorder. Doesn't really matter. You need something that is AV capable.
I mean, your phone.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so obviously
you can upload with that too. So great.
Yeah.
You need that. You need probably like an energy drink, a single energy drink.
Flavor of your choice.
Yeah.
Patreon. You want a Patreon?
Then you're
going to want a Patreon.
You need Patreon or equivalent. So you need a core audience that is so cares so much about what you do that they just want to support it out of the goodness of their heart.
Exactly.
Which is how they used to do it during the
Renaissance?
during the Renaissance with the Medici.
Yeah, they're like the painters just wanted some bucks to paint their
They're
paintings.
like, hey,
and
I just really want to paint this.
they dug the paintings, the Medicis.
And then it became like a thing, a point of pride between the noble to support different artists.
Yeah.
So, you that will always exist. And so you need that. And then I think you need some other easily producible product. We were joking about merchandise.
Well, you need a place to put your product. I mean, even in an adpocalypse, you can still upload to YouTube most likely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but here's the question: is it an adpocalypse because you got demonetized because of your content?
Just assume that YouTube as a site blew up.
Okay, YouTube blew up. All right, so now where are we posting? Vimeo?
No, you go on Squarespace, which has beautiful award-winning templates.
Oh, wait a second.
And 24/7 customer service.
This is a segue to the other go.
And then you upload your little store there, and you sell your little trinkets. Maybe you got a pop socket. Maybe you got the dirt that you filmed on.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, here's the thing. I guess let's say, okay, if it's an adpocalypse, YouTube's blown up. You have to. I mean, creating ad-supported content. It's still viable even if it's not through an aggregate or like a media
Ad-supported
company.
content is viable as long as you have eyeballs to distribute it to, and they will convert to buy the things that are being advertised. So,
Yeah.
I mean, sure, maybe you can post videos on your own website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as you can track the views, as long as you can give analytics. So, yeah, we'll take that too. We'll take that with us.
Yeah, and then a T-shirt.
Yeah, and then a T-shirt with your channel name on it.
T-shirt with your
in
channel
Derral
name
font.
in a cool font, or you can maybe draw a cool picture.
Yeah.
It can be unrelated.
Sure.
To your channel.
Only so much though.
But only by like 1 degree.
Yeah. Only so much as it's a meme on your channel.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, you're definitely not going to make as much money, but you'd still be able to survive as an artist.
Yeah. The main thing is you don't want to get on the bad side of the algorithm if you're still dealing with one.
Right.
That is something that is you can't recover from that.
Yeah.
That's the bad part.
You need to board up those doors and
board up the doors,
burn it down.
Yeah.
Start anew.
Yeah.
I know. Move to Facebook or Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think for us, that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day is like we consider ourselves an artist's unit. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to take the modern tools that are available and to create art on those platforms. I mean, with the Guillotine channel, just as one example, the whole thing started because we wanted to earn money to buy craft beer. So we said, hey, you know what people might be interested in is a Guillotine channel.
Well, the even
and so
truer
the
origin
performance
was the GoPro series, where we're putting GoPros on random things like GoPro on a can and GoPro on this, and then someone was like, GoPro on a guillotine, and everyone's like, what?
That's amazing.
So the performance art aspect of that is there's this story arc, which not a lot of people that watch the Guillotine channel will probably listen to this, so I can say it, but the story arc is. As soon as we get $50, that's actual net. We're gonna go out and we're gonna buy beer with it, and we're gonna burn the guillotine.
It served its purpose.
That's gonna be the end of the channel.
Well, because the whole thing is that it's like a novelty clickbait channel, where it's like almost like tongue in cheek, being aware that it's a clickbait thing where like guillotine crushing 1,000,000 bananas, and it's like, but yeah, so it's performance art basically.
Yeah. So even that, there's even in this like sort of algorithm based channel, there's still this aspect of this fun art, and I think as soon as it becomes anything, as soon as we lose that about it, like burn the guillotine, it's done.
Oh, you could do a video where it's chopping a guillotine with
a guillotine.
Just get really deep with it, like interdimensional.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Niko.
So you didn't get towed, which is good.
No ticket.
Made it in time.
Great.
So we went through our go bag for the adpocalypse, and we found a
comes
lot
to
of
your
really
channel.
great things. Yeah, so we're good. We're prepared.
Yeah, we can bug out.
We have our own .com domain.
It's gonna be bugoutartists.com.
I think every channel's go big includes a domain name with your company in it.
Oh yeah. We were kind of lightly touching upon it, but that's a much better way of putting
Squarespace
it.
has a unique domain experience.
Yeah.
Every time he says that, they pay us like $1.
Well, since you're saying on our content, we need a rev share, opportunity here. We want to get paid, so
There you go.
we'll figure out how to disclose this later.
Well, just in closing, I know you guys are super busy. You got a shoot that you got to go to, but what's one thing happening right now in the industry that is disrupting the industry that you're really excited about?
Should I talk about deepfakes or should I talk about the Blackmagic Pocket camera?
I don't know. They're both pretty good. I don't think the deepfakes
Not
is
really
as disruptive as. It's not going to be widely disruptive. The
So-
Blackmagic Pocket's pretty
Your
special.
Tom Cruise deepfake was amazing.
Thank you. Here, I'll hit two things.
Just wait till you
So-
see the Keanu one.
Not a joke.
So I'll touch upon deepfakes first, but not so much deepfakes themselves, but artificial intelligence, machine learning, and image generation. So up to this point, everything's always been, either 2D compositing or 3D animation for creating visual effects. But we're getting to the point now where computers can just synthesize images straight up, just like you said. There's a house here in the field. The computer's like, all right, here's a field, here's a house. And it looks like a field and a house. And we're approaching a point, we're not just there yet, but soon in the next 10 years, where a lot of visual effects tasks and visuals in general are just going to be generated to a computer that knows what a house looks like, as opposed to somebody having to sit down and 3D model a house and then shade it and light
Just
it.
drop in the house and field setting.
Exactly. So that's crazy. But the other thing that is upsetting the industry is camera tech is it's no longer, how do I put this? You can't be better than someone because you have a better camera anymore. Blackmagic came out with their Pocket 4K camera. And sure, every camera has its quirks, and that camera has its quirks as well. But it's the first camera. It's $1,000, by the way. It's the first camera that is a affordable cinema quality camera for anybody.
Cinema, actual, watch it on a movie theater screen, and it's nearly indistinguishable from the most expensive camera you can film on right now.
$1,000.
For $1,000. And it's light, and it's tiny, and it's small, and you can run around and throw it on a little pole, on a gimbal, do your little amateur video shoot with it, and but then you can also take it and put it in the hands of a world-renowned cinematographer, and they can they can film the Avengers on it, so no one would be the wiser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, technically, an Alexa 65 is a better camera. Technically, a Red is a better camera. Sure. And that's fine. And if you're on a multi-million-dollar budget and you're on a big shoot and you have the crew, sure, go shoot with those cameras. That's fine. But honestly, we're at the point now with this camera that anybody can shoot something that looks like a movie. So it doesn't matter if you have an Alexa 65. It doesn't matter if you have a big crew. All that matters is, are you making something cool? And now everybody can do it. And that's probably pretty scary for everybody making films, like big budget movies. I'm sure it's already been scary for a while for them.
But it's especially scary now because the platform of where to put that content has been built up over the last 10 years. Social media, basically. And now finally the actual hardware that allows people to succeed it exists. So it's kind of these two things, they've just converged because this camera came out months ago. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's super cool. It actually reignited my excitement for filmmaking after using it, because we were using these Reds and lugging around these heavy cameras to film our little YouTube videos, and it's this is silly. It's I'm a one-man crew, two-man crew using this heavy camera that's hurting my back once I hold it for 2 hours, and now suddenly, I don't have to do that anymore.
So it's like a company that's empowering the decentralization of content. Yeah. We had Chris Moore on, you've met Chris Moore. I introduced you to him, right? At Sundance. He was the producer for Good Will Hunting and Manchester by the Sea and the American Pie franchise. We talked about how it is starting to really disrupt Hollywood with all these like celebrities that are now, and from musicians to actors and actresses that have realized that they have a huge audience and they can now monetize that audience. And so I think, as they start creating legit content and get more disciplined and sophisticated, that's going to really be disruptive, especially now that, the trade of filmmaking is really on the rise. There's more producers now, more directors now, more writers now than ever before, and I think we're just seeing the very tip of the iceberg there.
And every kid in elementary school, what do they want to be for when they grow up? A YouTuber. So I mean, it's just like combination's pretty interesting.
Exciting times. Now, before we wrap up, the most important, actually, I don't know if I want to ask a question or if I'm just going to request a statement. Derral has given me a lot of crap for liking D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, and I let him know that you guys are my D&D posse.
Okay, no, hold on.
Sam is the best dungeon master of all time.
Yes.
Where I don't play with anyone else.
Let's just clarify this once.
So why do you think we're nerdy?
No. Let me clarify this once. This is very important. It's on record here. Okay.
Okay.
He goes, "Hey, Derral." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you ever play D&D?" I go, "I've never played in my life." "Why do you hate D&D? That's how it's been.
You're being emotional, Derral. Derral, you're being emotional right now.
No, here's the,
calm down.
I'm going to be historically accurate. I go, "Hey, Ricky, how many times have you played D&D? Played once with Corridor Digital."
That's not true. That's not true. You guys know it's not true. We played a handful of times. Twice.
They're good games, though. They're great games.
We're editing this out of the podcast.
The games were so fun and so I literally can't even say what happened in those games.
Demonetized.
You can't.
Because
Demonetized.
We're keeping that between us.
multiple people's careers would be at risk.
He doesn't record those games, right?
I do not record those games.
Well, how long were those games?
Probably like 4
About 4
hours, I'd say. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no,
There you go.
we did it like on a Friday night, and like he just went a little crazy.
Yeah.
They didn't realize
You go
how
hard.
artistic I was in my storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically what it
Jake's
is.
like
though.
holding back right now. I was like,
It's like, yeah, there's some dice and
There's a reason why we
figures
don't
and-
invite you anymore, Ricky.
Yeah.
We only want the brown deal. Okay.
So what's the statement on it? What do you?
Oh no, I was playing as the.
I think if I
He just
acknowledge
wants a hard
that
time.
D&D
I know
is
how it
cool
is.
and that
He got into it before
Everybody
you
should
guys
play it.
could make a statement.
D&D is
You
not
can't
just
ruin
for
it.
nerds. Or it's okay to be a nerd. Either way.
Turns out not just
Nerds
for
are ruling
nerds.
the world right now.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I mean, geek culture is pop culture now.
That's right.
And you guys are some of like the early pioneers around that, making nerdy things cool with film.
Even that's
What have we
changing
done?
too, man. Even that's changing too. It's crazy.
yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. I know
Yeah,
that your
thank you.
time is money, and we really appreciate it. And thank everyone that's watching this podcast right now. Make sure you hit subscribe, follow, whatever platform that you're on, and we'll see you on the next podcast.